Welcome to the Darren Well podcast with Rita Mercer.
Good speakers tell stories. Great speakers tell stories with intention. I want you to move hearts, but you're also running a business. We also want to move the needle. You do these things, I guarantee you we're going to increase that conversion rate.
Hello, my dear. Welcome back to the Darren Well podcast. As we get into today's episode, I want you to think about what if one powerful story could completely transform the way that you lead and the way that you communicate. Today, I'm honored to welcome today's guest, Dr. Danny Brassell. Dr. Danny Brassell is a keynote speaker. He's a story coach. He's the author of 20 plus books, and he's got some of those displayed behind him. He's also the co-founder of Well Crafted Story. Danny's work centers on helping entrepreneurs, business owners, executives, and organizations leverage ways to speak and communicate on stages as a major way to lend and connect with clients. All right. So again, I'm excited for Dr. Danny Brassell to share more ways to lead with confidence and to communicate with ways to inspire action and growth. So again, thank you, Dr. Danny, for joining the podcast. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, Rita. More importantly, thanks for spreading some joy around the world. We need a lot more of you, my friend.
Right back at you, sir. Right back at you. So as we get into today's episode, I always love for guests to share their why. I feel like that's a nice heart-centered way to kind of lean into the conversation. So tell us about your journey. So I know your journey is kind of very colorful, very colorful, multi-layered. I was captured by you being a teacher from South Compton, from South Central LA, Compton, to now being a global communication expert. So tell me about all those different pivots and shifts, and tell me about your journey.
Well, you got that right, Rita. If I was going to write an autobiography, it would probably be called Pivots, because I feel like I've already lived 9 lives. 30 years ago, I was a journalist covering President Bush Sr. in the 1992 presidential election. I loved my job. I got to meet every editor of every major daily. And a friend, one editor offered me the City Beat for $16,500 a year. Meanwhile, a friend told me they were hiring teachers in South Central Los Angeles for $25,000 a year. So Rita, I became an educator for the noblest of reasons, for the high pay. And I actually fell in love with teaching. I've taught all age levels, from preschoolers all the way up to rocket scientists. I can make that claim because I used to teach English as a second language to engineering students at the University of Southern California. And in 2005, my wife and I attended a real estate seminar, which turned out to be a scam, and we lost everything financially. And I could give you the woe is me story, but I'm a positive person. I prefer on looking at all the lessons I learned. First of all, I learned that my wife is my soulmate. I put her through the ringer, and she stood right by me. She's an incredible human being. Second of all, I learned that money's not everything, because you can lose money just like that. Third, Rita, I try not to judge other people, because if I was somebody who saw what I had done, I would have said, well, you deserve that. But now I realize, unless you know everything about a person, you really don't know anything about a person. Fourth, I became Christian, which I'm always embarrassed to confess. It took a catastrophe, but the more I read my Bible, I realize I'm not the first screw up to find Jesus. And fifth, and probably most applicably to your podcast today, is I didn't want to file bankruptcy. And my accountant said, well, you have to earn this much more money this year. And so I started speaking on the side. And I hit that number right on the number. Well, the next year, Rita, he gave me a much higher number. And I hit that number right on the number. So in year 3, I thought, well, maybe I should set a higher number. And basically, during one of the worst economic downturns in American history, I was able to build up a highly lucrative speaking business, which eventually attracted the attention of some pretty famous people and companies asking me to coach them. And I have to admit, I really resisted coaching for a long time, Rita, because you need to know this about me. I'm obsessive compulsive. I will not let you fail. I will be on your back, holding you accountable until you succeed. Well, now that I work primarily with entrepreneurs and business owners and executives who pay me a lot of money, I find that they're highly motivated. They do the work, spend some of the most gratifying work I've ever done. So we can go down whichever path you choose, my friend.
Awesome. Quite the resume. My goodness. I learned more today than I've learned by reading your bio. Wow. So, Dr. Danny, as we think about leaders today, so leaders in their community, leaders in the professional business world, leaders that are starting their own business. So all the different levels of leadership. So how can people how can they identify some of these barriers that are holding them back from showing up fully, from showing up freely to be that leader that they're called to be?
Well, the big discrepancy I see between the best and the mediocre is, there's plenty of people who are readers that don't necessarily become effective leaders, but I can't tell you a single effective leader that's not an avid reader. So I'm a big believer in reading. Since I'm a storyteller, some people collect trading cards. I collect stories. I get as many stories as possible. You can give me any kind of situation. I pretty much have a story for it. And this is really what I'm helping my clients work on, is how can you become a more effective communicator? Let's take your meaningless numbers and turn it into meaningful narratives.
Wow. That's super cool. Yeah, that's what I love about the podcast, is that I get to hear so many different stories and I get to understand like different lenses of where people are coming from. That's super cool. Okay. What are some of those barriers that you think that are preventing people?
Well, I think that's a barrier. In terms of speaking, I have an underhanded agenda. That's why I came on your podcast, is I believe that women and minorities are completely underrepresented on stages. And I'm not saying that race and gender are everything, but they do mean something. I mean, I have 2 daughters. They need to see you. They need to see that there's a woman who did it. I was speaking in India, spoke to an all-girls school, 5,000 girls. At the end of the presentation, girls are coming up to me, telling me how great I am. And these 2 young girls, beautiful young women, one wants to be a lawyer, the other one wants to be a doctor. And I said, well, that's great. Are you going to be going to university here in India, or maybe you'll go to the UK, or maybe to America? And they looked at me like, we're girls. We can't leave India. I'm like, get back in that auditorium. This was in 2018. I said, now is your moment, ladies. Within 5 years, India is going to become the largest country on the planet. I'm like, you're a very young democracy. You're only about 75 years old. You've already elected a woman prime minister. America still has not elected a woman president. I'm like, right now, there are twice as many women in India as there are people in the United States. There are actually more women in India with a graduate degree than there are people in the United States. I'm like, and you just made it my next mission in life. The next prime minister, the next CEO, and the next really good mom is coming out of this audience. Don't let anybody ever tell you what you cannot do. This is where I got impassioned as a teacher in the hood. I was very blessed, Rita. I grew up, I didn't know how good. We were poor, but we always had food on the table. Both of my parents were present in the home, and my parents read to us kids, in front of us kids, and we had plenty of access to reading materials and lots of encouragement. I worked with students that frankly came from some of the most rotten environments possible. And one of my friends, he's no longer with us, a great speaker named Keith Harrell. He used to have a great speech on attitude, and he said, a lot of people say garbage in, garbage out. He's like, that's wrong. Garbage in, garbage stays. But I also believe you tell somebody they're going to do something enough, that also stays too. I mean, I used to look at my students, I'd say, hey, sometimes you need somebody else to believe in you before you believe in yourself. I believe in all of you. They only give me the best and the brightest. Let's go out and make this world a better place. I think you hear that enough times, you start believing that in you. This is what made me love being a teacher. And people are like, well, how does teaching affect you as a speaker? By teaching in lots of different ages, I learned that what works with 12th graders does not necessarily work with kindergartners, but what works with kindergartners works with all age levels. I call kindergarten New York, because if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. They have about a 7-minute attention span. It made me much better as a communicator.
Yeah, definitely working with youth will do that for you. For sure. So when you think about leaders, so sometimes it sounds like the confidence and sounds like the motivation is what you help people to get to that point to be a better leader.
Well, before anybody's an expert, they're an amateur. I guarantee you, even Tony Robbins was nervous the first time he took a stage. The reason he's so confident now is he got the reps. There's only 2 ways you're going to get better at speaking. First of all, I've had lots of wonderful mentors throughout my career. One of my mentors was a guy named Jim Rohn, and Jim used to say, you can't pay other people to do your push-ups. Translation, you got to do the reps. I guarantee you, Rita, the first time you did this podcast, it stunk. And the
It
second time,
did.
yep, the second time you did it, it stunk, but it didn't stink as bad as the first time. And now you've been doing it enough that it's this finely tuned machine. But that's how you were able to build up your confidence. The second way you build up your confidence as a speaker is you watch other speakers. I mean, I watch 10 speakers a day. I watch politicians. I watch comedians. I watch televangelists. I watch them in front of big groups, in front of small groups, in front of men, in front of women. Here, I'll give you a ninja strategy I share with people. I watch a lot of televised award shows because when the person wins the Academy Award, they only have 45 seconds to connect with their audience. I want to see how they use their time. Now, most people, they get up there, they waste their time. They get up there and go, I want to thank God, I want to thank the Academy. It's stupid. Nobody's paying attention. But every now and then a person hits it out of the park. So a few years ago, Rita, there was a gentleman by the name of Joe Walker who won the Academy Award for Best Film Editing. Now, this is Hollywood. The important people are in the front of the room, the actors. The camera's scanning the crowd. You can tell none of them are paying attention. This is film editing. Joe Walker gets on stage. He's British. He speaks very slowly and deliberately. He says, a lot of people don't know this, but when phrased properly, the term Academy Award nominee can be used as an insult. Well, now the camera scans the crowd. You see people leaning in like, what's he talking about? He's like, for example, yesterday, I got in an argument with my 17-year-old daughter, and she said, well, Academy Award nominee Joe Walker. All of a sudden, you see everybody laughing hysterically. He gets off stage. Denzel Washington wants to meet him. Sandra Bullock wants to meet him. Brad Pitt wants to meet him. Time magazine said he was one of the highlights of the Academy Awards. Well done, Joe Walker. So this is how, when I'm working with people, most of the people I work with, by the way, they have no interest in speaking or they're completely terrified of speaking. And so I'm working with them on that stage confidence. This is why I watched a lot of comedians. Comedians are really good about this, Rita. They take a perceived weakness and they turn it into their strength. So if you watch Kevin Hart's a short black guy. So what's he do? Tells a lot of jokes about being a short black guy. Jim Gaffigan's a big fat white guy. So what's he do? Tells a lot of jokes about being a big fat white guy. By taking their perceived weakness and making fun of themselves, they've actually turned it into a strength. I mean, I didn't work with either President Biden or President Trump on their campaign, but if I had worked with either of them, I would have leaned into certain traits. So President Biden, if I was working with him, I would have said, make fun of your age. I can't remember anything. I'm just old Joe. I can't remember. Everybody would just laugh. They'd be like, oh, President Biden, he's so forgetful. He's just a neat old grandpa. Lean into it. If I was working with President Trump, I would have said, lean into your humility. Nobody is humbler than me. I'm the most humble person on the planet. By making fun of what they perceive, what's a perceived weakness, they've now turned it into a strength. You can't. I mean, I always use the end of the movie 8 Mile with Eminem. I'm going to establish my whiteness right now. So I don't know what they call it, but there's like a rap off between Eminem and the black guy, and Eminem has to go first, and Eminem's all of his buddies are like, oh man, he's gonna say that he slept with your girl and your mom's a crackhead and you live in a trailer. And everybody's like, what's he gonna do? And so Eminem gets up there and he's like, you gonna say that you slept with my girl, that I live in a trailer, that my mom's a crackhead? And the black guy, he doesn't know what to rap about now. He's like, you just took away all my ammunition. Oh, important lesson. Take the perceived weakness, turn it around on people. So I'm sorry, I'm babbling. I'm going all over the place, but that's what I love working with people on when we're putting together their presentations. And I guess what distinguishes me from a lot of people is I like to focus on the positive instead of the negative, because there's too many people telling sad stories. I think we need a lot more uplifting stories.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Taking your weakness and turn it into a strength. And so embracing the whole person of you, not just like these one pieces that we want to kind of like one-offs. Yeah, I love that. Don't
be a social media speaker. Everybody likes to put their best foot forward, and that's the way of doing it. I always tell people, stop sharing your successes, start sharing your failures, because not everybody in your audience has succeeded, but they've all failed. And the more you share your own failures, the more your audience is going to see themselves in you. You know this with your mental counseling background. This is how you help people, is if you're working with a person on weight loss, the fact that they can see that, oh, here's another I mean, that's why I love Oprah. How do you not love Oprah? Oprah, she's publicly shown her entire journey, goes up and down, And I admire her for that. She's out there. She's vulnerable. Most people, I call it the social media problem. They like to, oh, I have six-pack abs and I drive a Ferrari and I have a supermodel wife. I'm like, that's not reality. Reality is, you're having a tough time paying your rent, or you said something stupid to your spouse. This is where most people screw up speaking, is they think they have to be extraordinary. And I would actually argue exactly the opposite. So I'm working with a
just be
client.
authentic.
Absolutely, Rita, you know that. I mean, I'm working with a client right now, a very successful businessman from Saudi Arabia. He's climbed the highest peak on all 7 continents. He swam with sharks in Madagascar. He did the Iditarod in Alaska. I look at him, I'm like, nobody can relate to you. Nobody in your audience has climbed Mount Everest. But I guarantee you, everybody in your audience peed their pants when they were 6 years old. That's a good story. That's how you connect with people, is what can I do? Like you and I, just before I came on the podcast, we're just chatting away. Oh, where are you from? You're from oh, you're from Kentucky. Man, so we start talking. We're always looking for the connection point. This is the same thing in a speech. How can I connect as quickly as possible with that audience?
Yeah. Look for the connection point. So the common ground.
Absolutely.
Understanding that we're more common than we are different. And so I love that. That. So would you say that's the secret sauce when you think about a presentation that delivers, that converts, that connects deeply with an audience?
Yeah, so Rita, you have to bear with me. I'm a former teacher, so everything I do either rhymes or it's alliterative. And so I
love it.
I take clients through what I call the 5 C's framework. So the 5 C's are clarity. Before we put together your presentation, once we have clarity, then we need to connect with the audience, teach meaningful content that serves the audience, have one clear call to action, and finally have an emotional close that prompts people to jump out of their seats to work with you. So clarity, before we put together your presentation, there's 2 questions you have to answer. Who is your audience? And what is the problem that you solve? And you'd be amazed, Rita, 95% of the people I work with at first cannot answer one or both of these questions at the beginning. They try to serve everybody. I'm like, You're serving everybody, you're serving nobody. Like, let's focus in, zoom in on it. I mean, you can always expand your audience. I mean, when I first started speaking, I had been a public school inner city teacher. And so I started teaching to inner city public school teachers because that was my tribe. And then I was able to expand beyond just inner city public school teachers to all public school teachers, then to all teachers, and then to administrators and parents. I was able to expand, but you got to niche it down to begin with. When you're connecting with your audience at the beginning, again, former teacher, the first 5 minutes of your presentation, you got to rap. So rap stands for you got to show you're relatable. You have to demonstrate your authority. You have to share your purpose. So relatable. Man, I am just like you. I've had that same problem. Authority. And I solved that problem. Purpose. And now I'm on a mission to help people just like you so you don't have to suffer the way I suffered. If you can do that in the first 5 minutes, you're going to increase that conversion rate. The content portion of a presentation is the portion that everybody focuses on. And I have to tell you, it's the least important part of your presentation. There's plenty of research that shows people remember the beginning of your talk and the end of your talk. They don't remember anything in between. The bun is more important than the burger. But what people do remember is, are you helpful? So I'll give you an example, Rita. One of my first mentors was a guy by the name of Jim Trelease. He's no longer with us, but he's one of the best speakers I've ever seen. So Jim, he used to teach parents how to read aloud to their kids. And all of a sudden, in the middle of his presentation, like, oh, I'm going to teach you something. This is going to save your life someday. If you ever lock yourself out of your car, if you have your cell phone, call your spouse, have your spouse put your car keys next to the phone. You put your phone next to the car door. It'll unlock the car door.
Oh, does that really work?
Rita, I've tried it from 3,000 miles away. It does work. It might not work with Newark. This is 30 years ago when I did this, but I did it with my Toyota Corolla from Maine to California. It was unbelievable.
That's wild.
So here's what's wild is I've watched him say this in presentations, and at the end of the presentation, people surround him. And there's always at least one woman, oh my gosh, I saw you speak a couple of years ago. You taught that phone thing. I did that once. Oh my gosh, it works. You saved my life. Because of that, I've been telling every school they should book you as a speaker. Hold up. That had nothing to do with his talk whatsoever. But Jim demonstrated to his audience, I'm here to help you. I'm trustworthy. I help people. That's what you should be doing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm working with a woman right now. She treats patients with clinical depression. And so she was speaking at a conference, and I said, does everybody have a pen on them? She's like, yeah. I'm like, teach them all this. Everybody take your pen, bite down. The simple act of biting down on a pen or a pencil actually tricks your brain into thinking you're smiling, and your brain actually produces the same number of endorphins as if you actually were smiling. So I've just shown the entire audience a way, if you're ever feeling sad, here's a way to trick yourself into happiness. Audiences love it. I mean, with my audiences, I always say, hey, most people with these cell phones, they waste time on social media, but when used properly, this is a very powerful tool. So I'm always trying to learn different things. I mean, I'm a bad Christian, so I'm trying to learn different scripture. So every day right now, I have an alert at 3:23. I've been going over Colossians 3:23, which is whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not human masters. Okay, I've gotten that one. I read the book Dune. There's a thing called the Litany Against Fear I've been trying to learn. So every day at 9:11, I review, I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is, well, I'm working on it. I got married on December 20th. So every day at 12:20, I have an alert to tell my wife I love her. So what I've done is, again, I've shown the audience, here's a tool all of you have, and I bet you, I know there's a thing that you can do on this that you're probably not doing it. So in the content portion of your presentation, what can you do to help your audience? And then the final two pieces of your presentation are a clear call to action and an emotional close. So by the way, whenever I cite clients, I never give you their real names because I believe in discretion. We're working with a woman right now, Dr. Kathy. She's one of the top nutritionists in the world. And the way Dr. Kathy was ending her presentation was, I have a 90-day diet program for you that's only $19.97. And she stopped there. I'm like, whoa, big mistake. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you have to understand there's two types of people in your audience. I'm going to be very stereotypical and say it's the husband and the wife. The husband is Joe Friday. He's the guy sitting in your audience with his arms crossed, looking at you skeptically like, who is this person? Were they trying to sell me? How much does it cost? What do I got to do? And a well-crafted presentation answers all of Joe Friday's questions. But Dr. Kathy was ending on Joe Friday. I'm like, wait a sec. You've ignored potentially 50% of your audience. The wife. The wife is Julia Roberts. Julia Roberts, she doesn't care what it costs. She just wants to feel good. I listen to Rita's podcast because I always feel good. It's like my long-lost sister. I feel so connected with her. And so she needed to end her presentation on an uplifting note. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you need a story. She's like, how do I find a story? I'm like, well, what do you want your audience to do? And she's like, I want them to buy my coaching program. I'm like, yes, I know you want, geez, so dense. Went back and forth like that, Rita, for 5 minutes. Finally, she let it slip. She's like, I want them to understand they can't do it on their own. Oh, you need a hire an expert story. She's like, what's that? I'm like, I'll give you an example. I'll leave you all today with this. Many years ago, my wife and I had theater tickets. We were dressed to the nines, driving to the theater when we got a flat tire. My wife said, well, I'll call AAA and get us a tow truck. I looked at her. I'm like, you don't have to call AAA. I'm a man. I can fix a flat tire. So I got out of the car and I opened up the trunk and I got the spare tire and then I got the pumper thing. I got the big jack thing and started trying to take the nuts out of the tire. And basically, 27 minutes later, I have grease all over myself. I look up, my wife's standing beside the car with her arms crossed, shaking her head like I could have done so much better than this guy for a husband. Well, unbeknownst to me, 27 minutes earlier, she had called AAA. And this tow truck shows up. And this 17-year-old punk kid hops out of the tow truck and proceeds to fix my flat tire in 3 minutes flat. You know, I think there are times in life when all of us think we can do it on our own, but if you want to save time, you want to save money, you want to save a whole lot of headache and embarrassment, you hire an expert. And so what I've just shown Dr. Kathy is here's how you take a story that has nothing to do with what you're trying to do, but it shows them as a metaphor. The audience now is thinking, you know, I've tried lots of diet programs before, but Dr. Kathy, she's an expert. I bet you this one will work. That's what you're trying to do. That's the difference, Rita, between a good presentation and a great presentation. Good speakers tell stories. Great speakers tell stories with intention. I want you to move hearts, but you're also running a business. We also want to move the needle. You do these things, I guarantee you we're going to increase that conversion rate.
Woo, that's powerful. That's powerful. That's a good emotional close. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. As we start to wrap up, what are some other mindset strategies that people can lead with and communicate with clarity and communicate with confidence?
Well, I've always believed you are what you read, so read good stuff. So I was watching a horrible show on TV last week called The News, and it just totally depressed me. It's nothing but negativity. That's why I listen to your podcast. You're about solutions. Anybody can be about problems. I want to be around solutions. So I read great books. I listen to great podcasts. One of my mentors, Charlie Tremendous Jones, used to say, "You're the same today as you will be in 5 years, except for two things: the books you read and the people you meet." So make sure you surround yourself with people that lift you up and read books that are about your solution. You want to be a better marketer? Read books about marketing. You want to be a better salesperson? Read books about being a salesperson. Don't spend your time. Time is the one thing that we can't replace. So be very intentional about who you're surrounding yourself with and what you're reading.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Yeah. Sweet. Well, as we wrap up today, what are some other words of wisdom that you want to share with listeners before we close out today?
Well, when my students left my classroom, Rita, whether it was my little ones or my older ones, as they exited the class, they always had to hear the same refrain. I always say, remember, kids, education is valuable, but execution is priceless. Knowledge is not power. Only applied knowledge is power. Knowing what the right thing to do and doing the right thing are two very different things. So let's go out, do the right thing, and make the world a better place. Your podcast is making the world a better place, Rita, so I appreciate all that you do, and I hope you continue doing it for a long time.
Oh, thank you. I'm so grateful for you. So yeah, how can leaders, how can business executives, how can they connect with you if they want to go deeper to learn your skill, to learn the art of communicating?
Well, as a thank you to you, Rita, and your audience for having to listen to all my stories, I want to give everybody a freebie. So if you go to freestoryguide.com, guide like a tour guide, freestoryguide.com, I'm going to give everybody their own complimentary, well-crafted story blueprint. What this is the actual process that my co-founders and I take our clients through to help you create your well-crafted story. What this does for you is it takes the guesswork out of what story should I use and where should I put it in my presentation. And what this means for you is you now have an actual tool to convert audiences into actual clients. You can get that at freestoryguide.com. And again, thanks so much for having me, Rita. I appreciate you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Danny. I definitely appreciate your heart and your humor. Yeah, I think your bio said something about like you were the Jim Carrey of the world, and so of the PhD world. So I love that, because you definitely have been so lighthearted about some really good things about ways to communicate. So I'm definitely appreciative of that. So
Thank you.
awesome. Absolutely. All right, wellness friends, that's it for today. Thank you so much for stopping by the Darren Well podcast. Don't forget to like, to share, and to subscribe wherever you hear this episode. Take care, guys. Wishing you a fabulous day. Take care. God bless. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of the Daring Well podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to continue exploring the world of holistic wellness, be sure to subscribe to the Daring Well podcast so you never miss an episode filled with transformative conversations and actionable advice. Thank you again for being part of the Daring Well podcast community. Together, let's dare to live well in mind, body, and spirit.